I'm Patrick Smith, and welcome to today's segment of Gov Conversations with Sherry Calvendra, Manager of State and Local Information Services at Deltek. Today we'll be discussing state government priorities and why contractors may want to consider state and local markets to grow their businesses.
Hi Sherry, thanks for joining us today. What are some of the current themes and priorities for the state governments this year?
Well, one of the biggest themes would be fiscal recovery, as states have really emerged from the aftermath of the recession. Budgets are looking better. Recovery was a little sluggish at first, but budgets are getting better, and that's really helping to spur the procurement activity that we're seeing today. We're also seeing that and forecasting over the next 5 years or so that contracted goods and services are going to see a compound annual growth rate of 3.2%. We're also seeing that governors are more optimistic. They're talking about growth. So it's less about the conversation around pay freezes and furloughs, and it's more optimistic and it's more positive, and it's more about achieving results and solving problems. We're seeing them turn their attention to certain areas like education, which makes sense because that receives the lion's share of state budgets. And in that area, we're seeing them talk about education reform and accountability. In healthcare, we're seeing them talk a lot about health insurance exchanges, which makes sense because they just recently launched. And we're also hearing them talk a lot about Medicaid expansion. In the justice and public safety world, corrections is at the top of our governor's priorities. And they're also talking a lot about gun control and gun violence, obviously due to things like Sandy Hook. But cutting across all of those verticals technologically is the idea around performance management. That definitely seems to be a trend. Some other technological trends that we're seeing would be around achieving efficiency, so streamlining and consolidation. And we're also looking at things like cloud computing and mobile technologies. And one that's been around for a while would be updating or modernizing states' legacy systems.
Why should contractors consider the state and local markets?
Well, they should consider state and local because it offers tremendous opportunity. State and local entities are spending billions of dollars in contracted goods and services yearly. There's a lot of differences between the federal and state and local market, some of those being, for example, the structure. State and local entities are 85,000 plus versus the federal. But you also see a lot of differences in the budget process and in the budget cycles, with federal being obviously October to September and the state and local market being July to June, with a few variations right there. But besides those things, it looks like it could be an attractive market for firms making their way over from federal because there's opportunity there. In fact, we're addressing a market of over $280 billion worth of opportunity. So it's definitely worth considering.
So how should a vendor approach the state and local market for the first time?
Well, I think that they need to get educated on the market. It's a very large and diverse and fragmented market. So I mentioned some of those differing factors, so the budgets, having to understand the budget process, having to understand the different rules and regulations related to procurements. So getting educated, knowing who you need to get in front of to sell your wares, and understanding what their priorities, what their agenda items might be, and also understanding what their pain points might be. You also want to understand a competitive landscape. Looking at where your competitors might have previously won business or where there might be holes for you to make your way in there. So looking historically at contracts and also looking at pricing. And then last but not least, you obviously want to understand where there are business opportunities, and you want to understand where they are before others do. So looking at like online tools similar to Deltek's GovWin IQ would really benefit people looking to make their way from federal to state and local. We offer a lot of industry analysis information, a lot of intelligence related to teaming and partnering, as well as a competitive analysis and through our consulting group. So being educated and using tools like Deltek's GovWin IQ will go a long way in making that transition from the federal market space into the state and local market space.